Assalamu alaikum and greetings to you all. This is Sabina Victor and welcome to the first session of the Byte Size training. And today's topic is exploring Bloom's taxonomy. Now, before I move to the topic, let me introduce myself. I am an educationist with nearly 21 years of experience in the education field. I'm the winner of the International Excellence Award by Global Education Network. I'm the founder and CEO of Empowered Learning to Excel and Grow. I'm a certified global trainer by International Internship University, India. I am a UNESCO MGI-EP certified facilitator for social and emotional learning, which is known as CEL. And I'm a Teach and Seek certified digital trainer. And currently, I'm representing Pakistan at international educational platforms such as Global Forum for Teacher Educators, Global Education Network, and Open Pakistan for Relo Pakistan, which is a public affairs section of US Embassy, Islamabad, courtesy of Evolution Igniting Potential. Now, today's topic is exploring Bloom's taxonomy. Now, in ordinary English, the word taxonomy means orderly classification of living or extinct organisms. Here, taxonomy means the system for naming and organizing things into groups. So, whenever we talk about lesson plans, we come across an important topic related to learning objectives and Bloom's taxonomy. So before that, I want to ask you a very important question. What comes to your mind when you hear the term lesson plan? I would appreciate if you write your responses in the YouTube comments. All right, moving on. Now, before we go on to Bloom's taxonomy, let's understand the differences between goals and objectives. Now, goals and learning objectives are both crucial components of a lesson plan, but they serve different purposes. First, I'll start with the goals. Now, number one, goals are broad statements that describe the general outcomes or the intention of a lesson. Number two, goals are typically long-term aims that may take several lessons or an entire course to accomplish. Next, goals are more abstract and less measurable. They provide a vision what students should ultimately understand or try to do at the end of the learning period. Example of a goal is students will develop an understanding for the fundamental principles of biology. Now, next I come to is the learning objectives. Now, learning objectives are specific statements that describe what students will be able to do at the end of a lesson. They are detailed and precise. Number two, objectives are short-term and focus on what will be achieved within a single lesson or a few lessons. They break the broader goals into manageable parts. Number three, objectives are measurable and observable. They are designed to be assessed and evaluated to determine if students have achieved them. All right. And the fourth point is that objectives usually begin with an action verb and specify the criteria for success. They clearly state the expected student's performance. Now, objectives are SMART. And what does SMART stand for? S is for specific, M is for measurable, A is for achievable, R is for relevant, and T is for time bound. Now, example of learning objective is By the end of a lesson, students will be able to identify and label the parts of a plant cell with 90% accuracy. All right. So let's move on now to Bloom. Now, this particular personality is now has uh, is a part of a part and parcel of our lives in our professional lives, okay, as educators and as teachers. Now, his name is Benjamin Bloom. All right. So now I'm coming to information on Benjamin Bloom. Now, Benjamin Bloom was an American educational psychologist whose life centered around the mastery of learning, the classification of educational objectives, and early childhood education. He is best known for his work in taxonomy of educational objectives, which consisted of 6 levels. All right. So let's come now to the Bloom's taxonomy. All right. Now, the Bloom's taxonomy, I'm just going to share a brief history of Bloom's taxonomy. Now, for over 60 years, Bloom's taxonomy has been used as an instructional design tool to create curriculum, activities, lesson plans, and assessments. The original taxonomy was created by Benjamin Bloom with his colleagues such as Max Engelhardt, Edward First, Walter Hill, and David Kraftwerk. It focused on 3 domains, that is cognitive, which is known as the knowledge-based, affective, which is emotion-based, psychomotor, which is action-based. Now, the old Bloom's taxonomy consisted of 6 cognitive levels, where the lowest level was knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. In 2001, a group of cognitive psychologists, curriculum developers, researchers, testing and assessment specialists published a revised Bloom's taxonomy and called it Taxonomy for Teaching, Learning, and Assessment. And they relabeled the categories of cognitive learning as remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Now, let's understand each of the cognitive levels. Now, the first one, remembering. Now, the purpose of remembering is to see, can students recall information they have read or heard? Number 2 is understanding. Now, understanding means, can students explain the ideas or concepts they have read or heard about? Number 3 is applying. Now, applying means that can students use the information in another context or different task or situations? Analyzing means, can students break the information down into parts? Evaluate means, can students assess the value of the input or information? And the topmost you see is create. Can students use the information to create something new? Now, on your left-hand side, you see the skills that I have mentioned. Now, those skills are your higher order thinking skills and lower order thinking skills. Now, lower and higher order thinking skills are concepts in the educational theory that refer to the different levels of cognitive processes. These skills are illustrated using Bloom's taxonomy, which is a framework for categorizing educational goals. First, let's come to the lower order thinking skills. Now, lower order thinking skills, which is in the short form known as LOTS. Now, this involves basic cognitive processes that are foundational for learning and understanding. It is concerned with the recall of factual information, and they form the basis on which higher order thinking can develop. In other words, lower order thinking skills test students for their memory, Examples are, number one, solving a maths problem using learned formulas or applying grammar rules in writing. Number two, memorizing vocabulary words or historical dates. As you can see in the Bloom's taxonomy, remembering, understanding, and applying are lower order thinking skills. Now we come to the higher order thinking skills. Now, HOTS. In other words, the short form for higher order thinking skills is HOTS. Now, this involves more complex cognitive processes that require deep understanding and analysis of information. These skills are based on individual knowledge, leading to critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Examples of higher order thinking are identify the themes in a novel. Number two is evaluate the credibility of sources in a research paper. Now, in the Bloom's taxonomy, you can see analyzing, evaluating, and creating are all higher order thinking skills. Now, on your left, on your right-hand side, you can see the words like describe, relate, tell, find, discuss, outline, explain, predict, use, illustrate, complete, solve, identify, compare, explain, categorize, decide, prioritize, rate, justify, create, imagine, design, and plan. Now, all these verbs are actually action verbs through which teachers and educators develop learning objectives. And these action verbs are included for each category of cognitive levels. You can see remembering has its own list of action verbs. Then comes understanding has its own set of action verbs. Then comes applying. Then we go on to analyzing, then is evaluating and creating. Now, there is no need to worry, my dear teachers and educators. You can easily retrieve these Bloom's taxonomy action verbs or planning verbs from Google. All right. Just type on the Google search engine, that is Bloom's taxonomy, planning verbs or action verbs, and you will be given a list or many websites indicating which ones contain those this particular list. Okay, you can even click on image on Google search engine. That is, after you have searched, you can even retrieve it from there. All right, so let's move on. Now I come to is the examples of learning objectives created from Bloom's taxonomy for various subjects. Now, the first subject that I have used is mathematics, and this is for class 9 and 10, and the topic is Pythagoras' theorem. So let's see now the learning objectives that I have created for Pythagoras' theorem. Now, under remembering, you can see, recall the statement of Pythagoras' theorem, then understanding, explain the relationship between the sides of a right angle triangle as described by Pythagoras' theorem. Applying means use Pythagoras' theorem to solve problems involving right angle triangles. Then analyzing, differentiate between right angle triangles and other types of triangles based on their property. Evaluating means, now see the verbs that I have used, I'll show it to you now in a while. Assess the validity of a geometric proof that uses Pythagoras' theorem. All right. Then comes construct a real world problem that can be solved using Pythagoras' theorem and solve it. This is for creating. Now you can see over here words like recall, explain, use, differentiate, assess, and construct. These are all your action verbs which I have taken from that list. Next example is of an English literature lesson, and this has been created for class 5. And I have taken, since I love literature, I love teaching English language and literature. So one of my favorite authors is Roald Dahl. And I loved reading Matilda and also teaching it to my students. And I have seen the movie. I'm sure you must have seen the movie, and you must be loving the character of Matilda and the villain, that is Miss Trunchbull, and Miss Honey, that is who always supported Matilda. She was her teacher. So let's move on and see what learning objectives I've created for Matilda novel. So now this is under remembering, you will see I have mentioned recall key events in the story, such as Matilda's early life, her discovery of her telekinetic kinetic powers, and significant moments with Miss Trunchbull. Then comes understanding, that is explain the themes of the novel, such as intelligence, family, dynamics, and justice. Applying, use the knowledge of the story to predict what might happen in the new hypothetical scenarios involving the characters. Analyzing, that is compare and contrast the characteristics of Matilda and Miss Trunchbull, analyzing how their differences drive the plot. Then in under evaluating, I mentioned assess the decisions made by the characters, such as Matilda's choice to use her powers against Miss Trunchbull. And under creating, I have mentioned that is design an alternative ending for the novel that changes the outcome of the story. So now you can see there's a change in verbs such as recall, explain, use, compare and contrast, assess, and design. Now, these are all action verbs which I have again taken from the list which I have shown you earlier. All right. So this brings my bite size, that means the short session, to an end. I have been receiving requests to conduct a comprehensive workshop on Bloom's taxonomy and learning objectives. I will surely conduct a workshop maybe in the month of August or maybe July. And when I do, I will surely inform you. So till then, take good care of yourselves. And if you have found anything valuable from today's session, please do let me know. Your feedback means a lot to me. All right. And I look forward to reading your feedback on Padlet Wall. All right. So I hope you loved today's session on Bloom's taxonomy and learning objectives. Till then, take good care of yourself. Allah Hafiz and goodbye.